like to welcome everybody out here tonight. I'm so grateful that you all came. And we'd like to just take a moment to recognize, so if any of our past WELS recipients are in the audience, if they could stand up, I'd really appreciate it. So grateful to have you guys here. Thank you for coming to support your fellow recipients. The annual WELS Award ceremony places a high honor upon the individuals who have etched their way into the history of Waterloo in our great community. Just as Henry C. Wells has done nearly a century and a half ago, the recipients of this award serve as an inspiration to our community now and for many years to come. At this time, we'd like to have Cindy come up to speak. Cindy is our executive director. Sorry, I should have introduced myself. I'm Corinne Lowry. I'm the Waterloo Library and Historical Society Board President. Cindy is our executive director, and she will be doing the presentation. Yay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'd like to introduce everybody to our 2023 WELS Award winners. They are our 13th annual WELS Award, only because COVID put us off a couple years. But like many previous award winners, the Dupreys contributed to our community without any expectation of ever receiving recognition. I'm very honored tonight to be able to present this award to them. Just so everyone knows, they were actually nominated not only by our board, but also we had emails come in from our community that said, you know who really deserves this year is Dave and Darlene Duprey. They have done so much for our community, and I hope that you'll take that into consideration. And seeing that they were seeing, you know, just the overwhelming response and excitement that they would be possibilities for this award. There was no way we could, you know, really say that they were undeserving, because they 100% are. And I've actually known Dave and Darlene quite a few years. I grew up in Waterloo, and I was good friends with Lisa and Lori. And I always remember both of them being kind and welcoming. And whenever I was with them, I felt safe. And I think that speaks a lot for parents, as a parent myself now, for the people in our community to know that there is people out there, and there was people out there that people felt safe and welcomed with. So Dave and Darlene are lifelong stewards of our community. They started their business, Duprey Video Productions, in 1989, and they have been married for 47 years. They have 3 children, and now have 3 grandchildren. Together, the Dupreys have produced valuable footage for events all over our community, and they started a YouTube channel in 2019, Waterloo, New York 2, to share their decades of documentation. If you have not looked on there, you can spend hours and hours going through those going through those videos, and they are invaluable as a historian to have that documentation available to our community, and as a long-term historian, we can't say enough that they have been able to document that. There's not very many communities around that can say that they have this much, to say that they have this much documentation, this much, even on YouTube or on video anywhere. I'm totally speechless, because it really is what is needed and what is lost in so many places. They have worked tirelessly on community projects, including the Downtown Interactive Map, walking tours, and the historical mural, plus the healing fields. They're active members of Real Christmas Committee and the Board of Directors of the Queen of Peace Apostolate and the St. Francis and St. Clair Roman Catholic Parish, Pastoral Council, and more. If that wasn't enough, Dave and Darlene are founders of Waterloo in Bloom, which provides plants and flowers to downtown, including Burns Way, the Memory Bank, and Dempsey Park, which beautifies downtown. If you've gone downtown in the last few days, it's because of them, because of their passion for our community, wanting to see it be beautiful. The Dupreys continued their commitment to service. Darlene served on the St. Mary's Parent Club for 17 years, chaired the St. Mary's School Yearbook Committee for 8 years, and co-chaired the St. Mary's Christmas Bazaar, which I can't imagine, that's gotta be a lot. I've gone to that, there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah. Dave was a village trustee for 20 years. He also served as deputy mayor. And while serving Waterloo, he focused on Oak Island and its connection to downtown, improving the village website, as well as the American Civil War Memorial and the K. Seneca Canal Trail. And a lot of our events happen down at Oak Island and in that area, and if it wasn't for the continued passion for that, we might not have had all of that downtown and there. He was also the past president of the Waterloo Business and Professional Association, and Dave was imperative to the founding of Celebrate, Commemorate Memorial Day, which is why we're here. Which is why we're, the events happen all weekend. He was imperative to this happening. He's been co-chair for the past 20 years. That's incredible. They truly understand the true meaning of Memorial Day. During the long-served time of committee, Dave ensured constant connection to the veterans organizations, and during event planning is to always honor those who lost their lives while serving, the true meaning of Memorial Day. So without further ado, I'm going to read the plaque. This is presented to Dave and Darlene Duprey. This award is bestowed upon the citizen or citizens of Waterloo, New York, who embody the character and commitment of the founders of Memorial Day, Henry C. Wells and General John B. Murray, toward the betterment of our community. This is from the Waterloo Library and Historical Society.
Down to 12 pages. No, wow. Wow. First, I'd like to thank Cindy and the Library and Historical Society for this prestigious award. We are humbled to be included in the company of the previous nominees and proud to be listed among those who we've looked up to for so many years. We're honored to have our family, friends, and fellow committee members here with us tonight, as well as a couple of presidents. Jeff Gallagher. But mostly, I'm so very happy to have my wife by my side to accept this award. She has been there every step of the way, and it's great for her to be recognized because she's often the one who's behind the scenes doing more than her share and keeping me in line. She enjoys promoting our community and preserving its history through her photography, and then there's flowers. I want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about volunteerism from my perspective. Growing up in this village of 5,000 people, like a lot of you, I thought I knew everybody. But the first time I ran for public office and started knocking on doors, I realized just how small my circle of friends and acquaintances was. Serving on the village board, joining committees, initiating new programs, being involved with Celebrate, Commemorate, Waterloo in Bloom, offered us the opportunity to meet some of the most amazing people. It's one thing to say hello to a stranger on the street. It's another thing to brainstorm at a meeting, clean up a street corner, plant some flowers, or work at an event with that same person. Those people who started out as acquaintances have become lifelong friends, and we can't thank you all enough. This award is really for all of you, because without you, we wouldn't be standing here tonight. Thank you.
It's been wonderful to work with a lot of you here and made our friendships and our family that much better. One thing I did think was kind of interesting, I'm from Clyde, and one of the key facts of history of Clyde was that President Lincoln stopped there. Now, it was just a few years ago. His train stopped there. He didn't get out of the train, he just came out, waved, said, "I have nothing to say," but they've had that in the history books for a long time. And I thought, fast forward a few years, here I am, I moved to Waterloo, and I'm on the stage.
Now we'll be honored to hear from Assemblyman Jeff Gallahan. He has a few words to say.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me here today. Doesn't this room look fantastic?
Yes. Sure does.
I came up here when I first got here all by myself and just walked around and looked at it, and it was breathtaking. I'm so excited to be here in New Fetzinger Hall. I was honored to be able to deliver a $25,000 grant from the state to help renovations here. And Cindy, to you and your staff, these renovations, everyone involved, congratulations. What a great job. A round of applause. When I found out that Dave and Darlene Duprey were this year's Wells Award recipients, I was surprised. Surprised they hadn't received it before. Because honestly, when I think of Waterloo, I think of Dave and Darlene. If there was ever a Mr. and Mrs. Waterloo, it would certainly be. So I can stand here and list all of their volunteer work, which has already been done. And I appreciate that. And all the organizations they've given their time to over the years. And I have a proclamation here that does explain all that, and I promise I won't read this entire proclamation this evening. But the Dupreys have given their whole selves to making this community to be the best it can be, and they've done an amazing job. This year marks the 157th consecutive Memorial Day observance, and while Waterloo is the birthplace of Memorial Day, it has taken the commitment of this community to keep that solemn tradition alive for so long. So many of our communities seem to lose their pride in their history as the years go on, but Waterloo is not one of those places. And that's in large part due to the work of the Dupreys and everyone else who dedicated their time to keeping Memorial Day traditions here alive. Just recently, during the pandemic, we saw so many events, traditions, put on pause, that never end up returning. Waterloo Memorial Day was not one of those events. 2021 was my first year in the State Assembly, and I remember being so disappointed that there wouldn't be a traditional commemorate event here that year. However, that did not mean that Memorial Day here in Waterloo was canceled. And that's in big part because of Dave and Darlene. What did they do? Together, Duprey Productions went to work and produced a beautiful video commemoration of Memorial Day here in Waterloo. That's why we're here today, to honor them. It is their dedication, their hard work, their passion for Waterloo that makes them the most deserving of this award. With that, I'd like to present a proclamation from myself and Senator O'Mara, the Dave and Darlene Henry C. Wells Award for the Waterloo Library and Historical Society. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Darlene, since we got your favorite president on the stage, I think we should hear from our 16th president, President Lincoln.
Well, thank you. You know, it really hasn't been that long. In fact, you may not believe this, but I actually knew Dave's father. Well, I knew of him. Because when I was in Clyde, I heard a story. Mr. Duprey was apparently pretty upset because when Dave was just a little feller, he was willing to volunteer back then too. The story is apparently when he was just a boy, he was a rather popular young man, and their backyard was a pretty popular place too. And his father had very lovingly planted a number of trees in the backyard. And apparently they got in the way of Dave and his friends. And so is it true that you volunteered to destroy all of those trees?
Around the coal line.
So, you know, volunteers are nice deep. Even below the soil, apparently. Well, I'll let you verify that. But I have always valued those rare individuals who will come forward at their country's call, at the call of their village, their city, their friends. Best things in a man's life comes from his friends. I was at a meeting of the United States Christian Commission just first part of this year, and I heard a song that actually was a poem put to music by Reverend Philip Phillips. I was so taken with it that I wrote to him later and asked him if he could send me the words. And the words were actually a poem written by Mrs. Ellen Maria Huntington Gates. But I thought of that when I thought of what I might say about the Dupreys and all that they have volunteered to do. But I also thought of you, and some of you may feel a little overshadowed by the likes of the Dupreys, but let me just read this, and perhaps that will ameliorate some of your feelings. It comes from this particular song. If you cannot on the ocean sail among the swiftest fleet, rocking on the highest billows, laughing at the storms you meet, you can stand among the sailors, anchored yet within the bay. You can lend a hand to help them as they launch their boats away. If you cannot in the conflict prove yourself a soldier true, if where fire and smoke are thickest, there's no work for you to do, and the battlefield is silent, you can go with careful tread. You could bear away the wounded. You can cover up the dead. If you have not gold and silver ever ready to command, if you cannot reward the needy with an ever open hand, you can visit the afflicted or the erring, you can weep. You can be a true disciple, sitting at the Savior's feet. If you are too weak to journey up the mountain steep and high, you can stand within the valley while the multitudes go by. You can chant in happy measure as they slowly pass along. Though they may forget the singer, they will not forget the song. I think there will be many who will not forget the song that the Dupreys have sung all these many years, including his honored father. Thank you.
Now we'd love
Madam. I am delighted to be here at Waterloo once again. It's a marvelous place to be, one of my favorite places in all the world. But then I like all the world anyway, so all the world is my favorite place. But when I get to sit on the stage with my personal hero, Mr. Lincoln, that means a lot to me. And to sit with such people as the Duprey means even more. The type of American that I like to, well, I like to be the President of the United States of these types of people. And I get to sit next to Assemblyman Galloway, or is it Assemblyman Callahan?
Assemblyman Callahan.
My apologies, sir, you'll have my vote the next time. Assemblyman Callahan, because he reminds me of my days in the New York State Assembly. You know, when I first got to Albany, went to the New York State Assembly, I soon found out that all the assemblymen talk very loud and very fast, and they pay attention to no one else. Just my type of politician. Well, I spoke of this earlier to Assemblyman Callahan, and you know, he said, it's still that way today. I don't know what to do about it. I said, I do. I said, get Doris Wolf down there to do some housework. But I'm glad I could be here to speak to Dave, Darlene, because they're the type of volunteers every community needs. Darlene's a diamond. Well, Dave's on his way to being a diamond. But nevertheless, good people. Good people are what we need. The community doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't grow at all if we all wait for George to do it. If we expect somebody else to come up with the funds or the sweat of the brow, the muscles of the arms to get something done, we need people who are willing to step forward, such as Dave and Darlene have done. I've always admired volunteers. The greatest group of volunteers that I've ever personally associated with was the 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry, the Rough Riders. They were a fine bunch of men, American men, one and all. There were cowboys and Indians, there were Harvard yachtsmen and desperados from the West, but they all had a sense of duty and purpose. And if you've got a sense of duty and you've got a purpose, you can accomplish great things. And don't think you have to be the star that everybody knows, that everybody appreciates. The common, ordinary man on the street can give so much, any effort where others grow from and benefit from. You may not think, you say, oh, I'm no one, and no one knows me, no one's going to listen to me. That's poppycock. You've got an idea, come and share it. And I tell all of you there who have volunteered and who've been in such places, don't ignore those who raise their hand, even timidly, and say, can I help? Say, sure, come on. And you never know what you'll find. With the Rough Riders, we had a fellow named Hefner. He couldn't march in step 3 feet, but he didn't want to either. His theory was, why should I walk when I can ride my horse? And if that horse was just to the privy, by golly, he could ride his horse. He says, and when the push comes to shove, my horse will do the walking, I'll do the riding and the fighting. And he was one of the best soldiers we had. We had another volunteer after the war. This trooper came to me, and he's one of the best men that the Rough Riders had. He was wounded 7 times in the Battle of Las Guasimas, and he finally fainted from loss of blood. They took him back to the field hospital, and about an hour later, here he came back to the line. He wasn't going to be in any old hospital while his troop is fighting the the Spaniards. Who wouldn't want somebody like that? Now, you may say, oh, he's the diamond, even the diamond in the rough. However, you must know that once I became president, I got a note from the fellow. He is by this time out in Arizona. He said, Mr. Roosevelt, I sure could use your help. He said, I'm in jail. I've been arrested for shooting my sister-in-law, wounding his sister-in-law. And he says, but it's all a terrible mistake, Mr. Roosevelt, and I'd like for you to speak for me. He said, I was aiming at my wife. Not that the Dupreys have ever Nevertheless, I want to say and reiterate what you already heard. The sense of volunteerism is mighty important to Americans. We need people who are willing to do their part, and then even a little bit more. It strengthens the community. It makes us better for doing that. You know, the good Lord has called upon us to watch over one another. Well, when your community calls, when an effort of any sort needs to be made, if you're there to answer, then you're kind of working on the Lord's side. So with that, I would say thank you so much, Dave and Darlene, for what you've done, and thank you for having me once again in this wonderful community.
I just want to say, I think it is we picked an amazing couple this year to celebrate the Wells Award, and this is our first real big event we've had since we have redone Fassler Hall. I was a little nervous because the Dupreys always do our videoing for this event, and I'm like, wait, who's going to do theirs? And their daughter stepped up, so thank you. Allow them to be a big part of our Wells Award, so they're really deserving of it, so thank you very much. And we have such wonderful people in the community, as President Roosevelt talked about, and so many people here that we want to thank that made this facility happen, and the updates happen, from the chairs, the carpet, to the heating and the lighting that we are learning to work, obviously. So I would like to thank all the contributors that are here tonight, and for all that you've done to help make this facility so much better and more useful for years and generations to come, and hopefully more presidents to stand on our stage. So thank you very much. At this time, we would like to invite everybody to Dave and Darlene, if you want to go down and mingle and receive your cheers and accolades for being here, and we appreciate it. And then if you guys are welcome to stay and talk, and thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it for all of you being here.